excited that you've taken time out to tune in to the Ella Johnson Show. I hope you enjoy the broadcast. So sit back, relax, and I'll see you at the end of the show. You know, one day someone asked me, Ella, why do you do talk shows? Like, why is this so important to you? I said, because I want people to know that God does use us. Because sometimes things don't happen to you. They happen through you. And now it's time for the Ella Johnson Show, where we set the table for real talk conversations. So stay tuned. It's all coming up next. The Ella Johnson Show. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Ella Johnson Show. I am so excited that you guys have taken time out of your Juneteenth festivities to be here and tune in to the Ella Johnson Show. As you can tell, I have a full house. We're going to have a very good conversation tonight. So I am excited. My guests are excited. Happy Juneteenth. And for those of you that may or may not understand what Juneteenth is all about, you're going to get a good knowledge of it this evening, because I have some amazing guests tonight. It's going to make sure you are in the know about what's going on. So happy Juneteenth. Thank you so much. Now, if you're watching the show from YouTube, do me a favor and subscribe to my channel. You're already there, so just go ahead and subscribe. If you're watching from Facebook, do me a favor, guys. Please share this broadcast. Now, even though it is going to rebroadcast tomorrow, I still want you guys to tune in and watch us and comment and ask questions, because we're going to be putting a lot of information out there for you tonight. So I know that you guys are excited about the whole Southern line dancing thing. I don't know if you guys are doing that in Oklahoma or Texas, but I know in Florida and Alabama and everywhere else. But tonight we're going to take a break from that so we can sit down and talk about the state of Black America. And we're going to talk about Juneteenth. So I definitely want you guys to meet all of my guests. Let's see here. I see that Miss Doris has joined us. I am so excited about you guys. Listen, right now, what's going on in the administration, and people may or may not like this show may not be for everybody, but we're going to talk real today. We're going to be candid, and we're going to talk about what's really going on. You're going to get the truth. You're going to get some research information here tonight. We're not going to beat around the bush, is what I'm trying to say. But right now, the administration is, they actually have a deliberate strategy to dismantle the protections that took decades to achieve. Our civil rights battles that we went through, he's dismantling all of that, guys. He's also dismantling the diversity, equity, inclusion efforts that have gone into it. We've worked very hard. And if you have been around any of our history, you know that Trump has been saying that he wants a, what is he calling it? A colorblind and merit-based society, right? Now, I think that's kind of funny. You want something that's merit-based, but your base has no merit, right? Okay, yes. We'll talk about it, right? All right, guys, are y'all excited about this broadcast tonight? Yes?
Let's get to it.
Let's get to it. Absolutely. So I need to introduce all of my guests, because you guys deserve it, because you guys are amazing. We're going to start out with Mr. Robert. Robert Stafford is a celebrity father. Before the broadcast, I was like, what does that mean? He was like, what is this? I am a celebrity father. So we didn't go any further. But he's also an inspirational singer. If you watch his show, you saw that he actually can sing. I don't know, maybe he'll give us a little something tonight. I'm not saying, but he's also a TV producer. He is the host of his podcast that he does with his beautiful girlfriend. And their show is titled Overflow, the Everyday People Show. I love it. he also has his album, a second album, and it is titled Moving Forward, Leaving Me Behind. And that's on all platforms. And it's like a soulful, thought-provoking songs, right? So you guys got to check that out. Welcome to the Ella Johnson Show, Robert.
Thank you.
Yay. So glad to have you. Then we have Mr. Brett. I said, Brett, what's your title? He said, I just love black people. Well, now I don't know what they call that. So he said, I just love black people and I just love fighting for my people. I said, it sounds like you're an activist. So Brett Thompson is here with us tonight. He is the president and CEO of Dockery Staffing Services. He's also a producer over at the ESPN Radio 97.5. Welcome to the Ella Johnson Show, Brett.
Thank you very much.
I love it. Then we have Miss Heather. Heather is the executive director of the Deep Greenwood Foundation. And she's also a descendant at Greenwood. Guys, she has an upcoming event this Saturday, June 21st, to do pictures for the Deep Greenwood descendants. She's partnering with JE Visuals. I think that's really, really awesome. So if you're in her neck of the woods, you guys definitely go out and support. Welcome to the Ella Johnson Show, Miss Heather.
Thank you.
Yes, she's my inspiration. Wearing her natural hair. You will not see that on the Ella Johnson Show, that's for sure. Welcome to the show, dear. Then we have Mr. Terry, Mr. T in the house, sitting back in the cut, right? Terry, he has been on my show quite a few times. He's still trying to get me over to Oakland. I really want to go to get one of the tours. He is the founder of the Greenwood Avenue Project. He's the tour manager at the tour of Black Wall Street in Tulsa, Oklahoma. And he really understands and vibes with Black Wall Street. So welcome to the Ella Johnson Show, Mr. Terry, again.
Thank you. It's a blessing to be here. And I just want to thank you for the invite.
Well, it's always a blessing. I mean, you pretty much put this entire show together. Everybody that's here, it's because of you. So I owe you my thanks. Well, listen, looks like we lost Ms. Dara. She'll get back with us, guys. But I want to welcome all of you. I know y'all have so much knowledge about our subject tonight. I am excited. I want people to definitely bring their comments to the show, and then they will come here. So if you have any questions or anything, bring them here. And also, guys, I want you to know that we're being watched in Liberia as well. This show is not only on YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, but Bless TV over in West Africa. So I want to say hello to all of my friends over there in Africa. Thank you, guys. All right, so we're just going to jump right in. Now that we got all that stuff out of the way, because it is Juneteenth, I think it's important, guys. We got to talk about Juneteenth. We got to talk about what this holiday means, because believe it or not, there are people that really don't understand. Well, why do we need Juneteenth? Why can't we just celebrate 4th of July? That's all we know. That's part of the problem. So that's going to change tonight. We're going to talk about Juneteenth. Robert, we're going to get started. Talk to me when you think about Juneteenth and this day and your celebration of it. What comes to mind?
Well, what comes to mind to me is our own way of. It's our chance to celebrate Independence Day our way. You know what I'm saying? Instead of, the fake, I'm not going to say the fake Independence Day. Of course, in 1776, that's not our Independence Day. Our Independence Day is Juneteenth. That celebrates our Independence Day, So it's a chance for us to do things the way we want to do it, celebrate it the way we want it to be celebrated.
All right. Well, Miss Doris is back. I have to introduce you. You weren't here, sweetie. That's why we went on. But you guys, you have to meet this lady. She is a legend in her own right. And her bio was so long, it would have taken the whole first part of this show for me to really tell you guys who this lady is right here. But let me just break it down. She organized Florida's first Juneteenth observance. She is the National Juneteenth Organization Foundation Region 6 Director, and she takes care of 4 states: Alabama, Florida, Georgia, North Carolina, and South Carolina. I said 4 states, 5. And she also hosted the first Juneteenth rodeos. Isn't that amazing? Rodeos.
Mm.
Yeah, the Congressman Darren Soto from here in Florida recognized her for her outstanding community service. She is currently collaborating with Equal Justice Initiative Lynching Community Remembrance Project. Welcome to the Ella Johnson Show, Ms. Doris. Yay!
Can you hear me?
Now we're having. No, we can't hear you.
I've said myself twice, so I don't know if I zoomed in twice. But can you hear
Yeah.
me now?
No.
Yeah, we hear you, but it's distorted.
Yeah, it's very distorted. So do me a favor, sweetheart. Go out and come back in. Let's try it again, okay? Let's go out and try, because I really want you guys to hear what she has to say. So yeah, just try to go out and come back in, because sometimes that helps. There we go. Okay, so Brett, when you think about Juneteenth, what do you think? Because you're from Texas and you know this all deep down in your guts. So what's up? Talk to me.
Juneteenth. I've been celebrating this ever since I was a little boy. My family used to coordinate our family reunions around it. Every summer we get together, a family reunion at the, at our Adair Park, and it was a time for family, friends, food, and celebrating. And my parents always wanted me to know what Juneteenth was about,
Yes.
And I always asked them. I asked, what is it about? It's because it's about when the Union soldiers sailed into the port of Galveston and let the slaves know that they were free. And because back then they didn't have telephones, they didn't have the mail service like we have it today, and things like that. So they had to come by boat, and it took over a year to figure out that the war was over and slavery had been abolished, and for everyone to know. And it didn't stop right then that day on June 10th.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right.
Other ththings had to happen. Things had to be negotiated because, massa had to be compensated, so, but it's an important time for us. I've always been kind of on the fence on how to celebrate. Why am I celebrating something that ended that should have never happened? But it's part of my heritage. It's my history. And these are my ancestors and what they went through. So I do now realize the importance.
I wanna go even further back than that, Brett, because people compare this day to 4th of July. Let me tell you why we have adopted this as our independence. Because when the Declaration of Independence, the purpose of that was to try to get some kind of some allies to rally behind and say we need to be separate from the Union. That was we were trying to bring our independence so that we're not with the British, right? So there were two Declaration of Independences. Let's just be very clear. All right. There was one that included slavery. Then there was one that didn't. The initial one had slavery in it. It was true because we were slaves and that information was part of the Declaration. But that wasn't really accepted. So they had to take it out. So when they formed this Declaration of Independence, we were not free. That did not include us. We were considered property. Am I right, guys?
Absolutely.
So when we talk about the Declaration of Independence, we were not independent. We were not considered part of that. So that is why, because like Brett said, that when the Emancipation Proclamation came in 1863, the slaves didn't hear about it for another 2 years. Okay, June 19th, 1865. Why do you think that was? That's because they wanted to continue to get free labor out of us, right? They didn't want to tell us. Because listen, this is what the order looked like. I want you guys to see this. This is what was actually implemented back then. This was the order. Take a look at this. The General Order number 3. This is what was brought out. The people of Texas are informed that in accordance with a proclamation from the executive of the United States, all slaves are free. This involves an absolute equality of personal rights and rights of property between former masters and slaves. And the connection heretofore existing between them becomes that between employer and hired labor. The freedmen are advised to remain quietly at their present homes and work for wages. They are informed that they will not be allowed to collect at military posts and that they will not be supported in idleness either there or elsewhere. So they're saying you guys are free. Now, whatever you do, they got to pay you. Your relationship has changed. But some people weren't happy about that, of course, right? So the reason we celebrate, and if you ever get a chance to go and look at Frederick Douglass, he talks about the 4th of July. I can't remember the exact title of it, but he talks about that as well. So it's important for you to know and understand your history and why we celebrate Juneteenth. It's because when the Declaration of Independence that we know, 4th of July, we were not part of that. That was not part of our deal. And, people in America, and I'm going to talk about America in a way that, I don't really care if it pisses anyone off, but it's true. We were hypocrites. We were hypocrites because we presented something that wasn't real and we weren't part of it. So for people to make you feel that you should celebrate 4th of July, obviously you could do what you want, but at least do it with knowledge. Right, guys? Mm-hmm. Heather, what does Juneteenth mean to you today, this celebration?
Well, I know Juneteenth from being a little girl, so we celebrated it. My whole life in Tulsa, we've always celebrated Juneteenth. I knew what it meant, but I knew that most of the country, Black people didn't even know that it existed and what it was about. Because when we went to other states, they'd be like, what is it? They didn't even know what it was. But we didn't even call it the Juneteenth back in the 70s. We called it the Jubilee. And so they changed the name to the Juneteenth. It was actually the Jubilee, which sounds more closer to sounding like Black to me than anything else. I get white people all the time, and I just had somebody the other day, a white person, say, well, why can't you guys just celebrate the 4th of July? And I said, well, when Betsy Ross was making the flag, we were slaves. And that
Come on.
So, I mean, our freedom didn't come until long after we were slaves. I mean, till we were free. I mean, from Betsy Ross to 1965 is a long time. And then to think about it, even those that were free for 2 years still weren't really free because all of us weren't.
That's right.
So that matters. And I don't know, here Jubilee has always been a big deal. I mean, everybody looks forward to it. A lot of the people here don't even go out of town during the weekend of Jubilee. So it's an important holiday in Black Tulsa. And
what about you,
Oh, sorry. And I was just going to say, for years, we competed with Houston. Houston and Tulsa always had the biggest Jubilees. And I kind of like that competition.
I know. Well, I mean, I think it's a time for us to celebrate, but I think it's more important that people understand why they're celebrating it. It's when I read, what I've read about Juneteenth is that it is definitely a time for us to come together because Black people have to realize that we deserve this freedom that we got. We worked hard. Our ancestors worked hard. This country's economy got where it is because of slaves. Let's just be real, right? Why is it that? Yeah. And today I saw that Pete Hegseth was trying to downplay the day. See, they don't like the narrative. They don't like us talking about Juneteenth because it reminds America what she did. Let's just be real.
And it took a lot of they took a lot of the funding away from it too. But I think that's going to end up being a good thing because it forces us to rely on us and so I kind of like it in a weird way. I kind of like that because now we have to rely on each other to get it done. And I don't like them saying, well, we fund. Well, we don't need your funding. I think we need to be more responsible in the things we do for ourselves anyway.
So that, that's a different perspective. I like what you're saying now, because what you're saying is, who cares? Let them
Yeah,
take
who
it away.
cares? Get it. We don't need it. But the show gonna go on, you know.
But to be honest, we didn't really ask for it because the Juneteenth becoming a federal holiday, that was after the George Floyd situation, and we asked for police reform, we asked for reparations, narrowing the wealth gap, and they gave us kneeling on kente cloths and they gave us Juneteenth.
And not
My
all
girlfriend,
states,
my
not all
girlfriend gets
states
mad at me.
celebrate. Oh,
Yeah,
she
you're right.
does.
Yeah, she gets mad at me when I say that because like we had politicians here that was fighting for Juneteenth for a long time, but like it just happened. It was just a coincidence. They gave us Juneteenth right after the George Floyd. Even though then we were asking for other stuff, and then they give us that. It feels like they're just throwing us a bone to shut us up. That's what it feels like.
That is the norm. That's exactly what happens. Now, Miss Doris, are you able to? Let's see if we can hear you now.
Yes, can you hear me? Testing.
Yes,
Testing. Can you
yes,
hear me? Great.
yes, we can hear you now. So welcome, welcome, welcome. I'm so glad that we are able to hear you, because everybody wants to hear your take on Juneteenth, because you are such an advocate for it. So share with us what you've done with Juneteenth over the years and how it has impacted you on that side of Florida. She's from Florida. She's right here with me, guys, right around the corner.
Absolutely, absolutely. Thank
Yeah.
you, and thanks for having me this evening. And hello to everyone uh, in the Zoom meeting, or however you're doing it on YouTube or wherever you are in your location. But it's great. Now, my thoughts about Juneteenth is a little bit different. And I do think that we earned Juneteenth because we had to petition each state throughout the United States to make sure we had all 50 states on board. And when we got those, the last seven came about the time during June the 17th when Biden signed the legislation. We solicited the various congressional representatives to make sure they were on board and make sure in their states that they would sign a proclamation, and make sure they would sign before that the resolution, which is a document to make sure they're going to respect Juneteenth and honor that in their respective states. That's how that came about. Dr. Ronald H. Myers and many other Juneteenth organizations came together at a Baptist church in Louisiana. And so when those leaders came together from every sphere within the United States who were hosting or leading Juneteenth organizations, they came together from Carolina, from Chicago, from California, all throughout the country. The major players who were hosting Juneteenth events or were leaders in their respective states, they came together. They voted to have Dr. Ronald V. Myers as the national president. So that's how it came about. When he came in as the president, he worked very hard before he transitioned in 2018 to make sure we had at least 42 of the 50 states had signed on. Florida was number two. Next to Texas was the first state to sign and have it into law by the governor. And here, second state was Florida. So that's how that came about. And so timely it was that it was in the month of June. And that was a push from the outside, pushing the legislators, or not necessarily legislators, but the Congress inside to make sure they did what we needed them to do. And there were many, many movements, I would call them moving parts, that made this happen, made it become a reality. So you hear about certain people, but the person who was so successful in getting things done was Dr. Ronald
So,
Myers. He did those
so
solicit.
Miss Doris, we're not able to understand what you're saying. I'm not really sure what's going on with your mic there, but we're not able, because we want to hear what you have to say. It's very important. It's just that it's okay. Now talk. Let's see what we got. Let's see if it's better. Yeah.
Can you hear me now?
The
There's an
audio
echo.
is not good, guys, right? The audio is not really
Yeah,
good.
it's kind of distorted a little bit.
Yeah, it's very distorted. Yeah, let's try to. Yeah, I should have told her to try to get on a laptop. It's always better to get on a laptop, guys. So I was really wanting her to share with us some of the history of Juneteenth, but I want to talk about what's going on today in our culture, because they are rolling back some of our important civil rights, and we need to talk about it, right, guys? Because I'm listen. I know people think, oh, this is just talk. They're not really doing anything. Trump's not going to do anything. He kind of told us he was, okay, and he did. So let's talk about some of the ones that are the more important ones. Are you guys familiar with disparate impact? No.
I can't say that I am.
I'm going to tell you guys what it is. All right. When a lawyer takes a discrimination case, and you know how when you have to prove discrimination, you have two types. It can either be direct, like somebody calls you the N-word. Hello, there's nothing to prove. They called it. It's right there. We see it. You did it. But there's also this thing where you don't really have to prove that it's direct. That's the part Trump is getting rid of, the disparate part of it. So what that means is that when an attorney takes your case and you have a discrimination case, it is very difficult for them to prove it now because of that disparate impact. See what I'm saying? Yeah. So he's making sure we don't win any discrimination lawsuits. That's what it boils down to. That's one of the things. So what do you think about that? What do you think about that, Brett? That when now, if you were to have a situation at your job or where you live, or some kind of housing discrimination or employment or anything like that, and you need an attorney, and you can't really say, well, I didn't see them do it. I didn't see them put the N-word up there, but I have people that say, or, other indirect ways to prove your case. And they say, well, I'm not going to take your case, Brett, because if it's not direct, it's not going to be welcomed. How do you feel about that?
This is par for the course for this administration. Anything to help even the playing field, even the playing field, they want to roll back. I mean, it's for malicious and insidious reasons. It's not for reasons for trying to say where like they try to say things are merit based and anything like that. No, they want to preserve their position in this country, and that's firmly on top, whether it's financially, socially, economically, everywhere. Now, anything that would help even the playing field or discourage discrimination, discourage diversity, they want to wipe it out. They want to wipe it out, and so they can still do their practices and still practice their nepotism and be able to make deals under the table and do favor quid pro quos and things like that with people that look like them. So it's definitely, racial discrimination has not gotten better over the years. People say, oh, you got to say it's better. People aren't being lynched in the middle of the streets anymore. Okay. Just because you're not being lynched in the middle of the street anymore doesn't mean that banks aren't denying you loans. Companies aren't giving you the opportunities, to live the American dream. Redlining, all that in Florida, that's still going on. Redlining is real. It's real. So Donald Trump has emboldened a lot of people with bigoted thoughts, and now they're really exercising it and pushing it forward. So I'm not surprised, and I'm not happy about it either, though.
I really want people to think about something, Robert, and I want you to back me up on this one. Slavery. We said, Ella, Please don't bring up slavery. Well, I'm going to bring up slavery. Okay. Because when slavery was abolished, we seem to think that ended it. How many of us know it didn't? When they wrote the 13th Amendment, there's a part in there where it says slavery is abolished, but there's a comma on the other side of it. If there's a comma on
If
the
you
other
go to
side,
jail, if
yeah,
if you go to jail, you still a slave.
yeah,
That's today too. That's today
that's
too.
my point.
That's the
Mhm.
13th Amendment. The 13th Amendment, if you go to jail, you still a slave. They didn't enslave us really until the 13th Amendment came. You know, we was a lot of us was free people before the 13th Amendment. The 13th Amendment was for white servitude that they had on this landmass that a lot of people don't like to talk about. There was a lot of white slavery themselves. When the amendment came, they started putting us in jail and having us do slave labor. It's just that simple. Watch this. The United States of America has done more harm to black people than the Confederates ever have. Ever.
I can
Just
almost
the
see that.
truth.
It's a hypocrisy, and
It's
that's
the truth.
what nobody wants to call out. You got to
Right.
call it what it is. I agree. What were you going to say, Heather? You look like you wanted to add something.
Well, I was just going to say, I think that sometimes we have to realize how resourceful and resilient we are. White people have been able to live so far ahead of us, and we still been able to manage. You know, my grandmother used to say when I was younger, before she passed away, she used to say you could put a white man in the and his wife and three kids out in the woods and give them a tent and some food and then a piece of land and see what they do. And you can do the same thing with a black family. Put the man out there with his wife and three kids and some food and a piece of land and a tent. And you come back and the white man done killed all his kids and family. And the black people, you go to their tent and they got people that moved in with them and they having a barbecue and a cookout. You know, we are able to make it in a world where they can't. And they've been able to have that advantage from slavery. They've been able to live off residuals. If they didn't have that, they couldn't make it. We have been able to live without residuals. And if we think along those roads, we can make a lot happen for us in the long run. I tell people this all the time. Greenwood is a good example of what we can do. It didn't happen because we were included. It happened because we were excluded. And we've got to be able to see that we did it without any help and we rebuilt without any help.
I'm glad you brought up Greenwood because Terry, and both you and Heather, you guys are very involved there in Tulsa. You're very familiar with Black Wall Street. A lot of people know it as, okay, this was the Tulsa massacre of 1921. I would like to add that it's also one of the 3 times where a white woman was involved that dismantled the Black community. Mm-hmm. The other one was Emmett Till, and the other one was Rosewood right here in Florida. So when you think about Tulsa and that massacre and what happened, what should people get from that story, Terry? What should we take away with that story?
Well, most of all, we should take away that, we are resilient people. As Heather said, as Rob said, as Brett has said, as you have said, that's the main thing, that we was resilient, that we was able to build again. We understood, those us in Greenwood, we know what it was between Dick Rowland and Sarah Page. We know
right
what happened, And so for the most part, just about being resilient, man. We built, like Heather said, it happened because we wasn't included. It happened because we was excluded. And us being segregated in Jim Crow law, we had to depend on each other. I had to help Heather and her family. Her family had to help me and other families and Brett family, even in, wherever we were in our Black communities, we really had to help each other. And I think desegregation just messed us all the way up.
Yes, it
And some might not think so, but I think it did.
I've heard a lot of people say that. Brett and Robert, I want to know what you think about that, because I've heard it both ways. Some people say that we should have stayed, apart. What do you think, Robert and Brett, about that?
I think I'm on both sides, because I think, if you got a business, you want to expand your business, right? But we don't have to. We still, there's no one making us not build a Greenwood now. We still can build those communities now if we choose to do so. We have the blueprint. You know what I'm saying? We can build a community that's self-sustaining. You know what I'm saying? But it's just going to be out. But how are we going to get dollars from outside? Because I understand the Greenwood project and all that, but that was for that time. You know what I'm saying? That was for that time, and I don't see no reason why we can't still build those type of communities to where our dollars is circulating, many times over before we let it go out. And I think that's the issue now. Our money comes in our pocket and it goes out, and you see people lined up to go to Walmart the next day. They don't spend money within their own community. So we can build those communities, and I think that's why they are going after the Latino community, because they dollars circulating within their own community, and they don't like that. But see, our dollars come in our pocket, and we go into Walmart and Target and all these places, and we boycott these places that don't care nothing about our dollars in the first place. You know what I'm saying? So I think, Greenwood, it's the blueprint. We got the blueprint. We just afraid to put it together.
Right.
Can I say this? I think that desegregation has not helped us, especially when it comes to education. We got the largest number, and you can compare this, and I don't care how top the black school is, the black high school is in a state. Our numbers, I don't care if we send black kids to a white school, our reading scores are the same across the board. I don't care how high functioning a black school is. We have an issue when it comes to reading and math that we have to face. My mama and my daddy, and I hate my grandma and my mother say this all the time, we had slow kids that could read. That ain't today. One of our biggest issues is education, not having a base for reading and not having a base for math. That is the key to being able to do science. That's the key to doing history classes. You have to be able to read and do math. So one of the things, we'll never get to Greenwood again, and if we don't have those two things in place. Black history means nothing if you can't read and do math. To be able to
I totally agree with you on the education part now, but and I think one of the problems is that we don't control our tax dollars, and I think if we get reparation, it should be something along that line. We can control our tax dollars. Let our tax dollars go. Our tax dollars go in this pot. This our reparation. Let us spend our tax dollars the way we want to spend our tax dollars, and y'all spend y'all the way y'all want to spend y'all. This is how we can get reparations. We got to start, because they're not going to give us reparations to say, give everybody $1 million. And another thing about reparations, we don't even know what we want for reparations.
No, we don't. No. I'll say this. You said something that was key.
I want the money.
Hispanic people they definitely keep it within their community.
Yeah.
We don't. And I'm going to tell you, diversity hasn't done a good job for us, period. Diversity is not what helps us. Diversity for us should not be that we go live in white neighborhoods. They don't do it for us. They don't come move in our neighborhood unless they're super poor. So if we stay within our own communities, diversity is people coming into your community and shopping because you got something they think is neat and they want. That's cultural based diversity. Being respectful of other people's communities. White people do it every day. They'll come down here and get soul food and go right back to their home. We got to have that kind of mindset.
That's very good. I want to go back to what you said about education. You said that that's where we're hurting. How do we make that better, guys? What is we've identified that that's an issue. What is the solution? How do we make that better in our communities? Who do we go to?
Like I said, I think that if we can control our tax dollars, we can build our own schools and teach our own curriculum. And that's a problem. They still teaching the same curriculum when I was in high school and in elementary. It's the same thing, and a lot of stuff they teaching, you won't ever see it again. They're not teaching about they're not teaching the stock market and the things that they use to get ahead. You know, they're not teaching us things that we can use to get ahead when we become adults. And now they're taking the Job Corps away. So now these kids are not even getting job training on, being a plumber and electrician. They're taking that away now. They're ripping that apart now. So,
I want you guys to watch a video because I want to definitely make sure that we cover certain topics tonight. So I'm going to show this video talking about DEI and what's going on in the country right now as it relates to DEI. You guys have to take a look at this video.
We're joined now by DEI labor attorney Jason Schwartz. Mr. Schwartz, thanks so much for joining us. First, just want to ask your initial reaction to the scope of the executive order and the employees placed on leave.
Sure. So nice to be with you. The scope of this order is huge. Really dramatic change, not only for government contractors, but for all private sector corporations.
And Trump notably revoked the executive order signed by LBJ back in 1965, which prohibited discriminatory practices in employment decisions for federal contractors. What sort of immediate impact could we start to see?
So the president, as you said, revoked the 1965 executive order from President Johnson and has flipped the requirements so that government contractors now have to agree not to engage in any sort of DEI program.
Are you on your way?
Preference based on race or gender. So not only do they get rid of their affirmative action programs, but they have to agree not to engage in certain DEI practices.
The first quarter is 28,
25. The OFCCP is now ordered to immediately cease its enforcement efforts under the 1965 Civil Rights Program, and instead, contractors agree again that they cannot engage in any kind of preferential DEI programs. And the order suggests that that will be enforced not just by the federal government, but that private citizens are going to be deputized to bring what are called False Claims Act actions in order to enforce that government contractor requirement.
Now, the White House said that its executive order demands departments and agencies take strong action to end DEI policies in the private sector as well, and that the Attorney General should also encourage the end of DEI in the private sector. What could those actions look like?
So, Lindsay, the most dramatic thing about that is the president literally asked the heads of every federal agency to provide a list of 9 targets against whom they will initiate investigations and potential litigation to challenge private sector diversity programs that they believe are unlawful. So each agency is going to be on the hunt for, and it's the mission is find the biggest whales you can. The executive order says look for large publicly traded corporations, large employers, large foundations, and send these lists to the White House so that the agencies can initiate investigations and litigation. I think that's going to be a substantial enforcement effort in the private sector, challenging lots of DEI programs at many, many companies.
Leading up to Trump's second term, we saw a number of large corporations begin to roll back their DEI policies. Do you think that more companies will continue to follow suit?
Very much so. No one wants to be on this list of 9 companies. So I think part of the intended effect of this order is not only to find big companies to make an example of, but to scare everybody else into rolling back their programs.
Okay. All right. Well, we thank you so much, Mr. Schwartz. Really appreciate your insight. And this just in, sources tell ABC that employees across the federal government today received memos asking them to report any.
Wow. So you guys see that. Now let's break it down. I want to hear from you, Brett. Talk to me about DEI. What does that really mean?
What does DEI really mean is actually improving your organization. Because let me tell you, if you're only improving if you're adding to your organization and you're only dealing out of a pond that's, the circumference of of a certain demographic, you're missing out on everything else, on advancing your company. If you go out and you're able to improve your company by getting different people, you're infusing your company with new ideas, with new perspective, with a new energy, and that'll allow you to, bring in new customers, a new market. See, I don't understand, businesses. I think businesses are doing so well that they feel like they'll sacrifice a few dollars. I know that's not the code of the white man, but they'll sacrifice a few dollars to keep their company a certain demographic, keep it all white. It's almost like they're trying to make a country club out of corporate America, and so they can do what they want, how they want. They can grab butts and tell dirty black jokes all day without fear of any repercussions.
Right. So Robert, why did this affect our community so much? Why were we so butthurt about this DEI, aside from the fact that Donald Trump blames everything on DEI? But when this hit and all these companies said, we're taking out our DEI initiatives, why did that affect us so much? If we know that we got the job because we deserve the job, why did it affect us so much?
I think we have to see this. I think it's time for us to wake up and just see stuff for what it is. It was them saying, the hell with y'all, we can hire who we want to hire. If we don't want to hire you, we're not going to hire you. And we got to see it for what it is. It's just like, when they had the bus boycott, they told us you have to sit at the back of the bus. Okay, we're not going to ride the bus. Now what you going to do? But we don't have that. We are so far away from the civil rights movement spirit within us. Yes. We have it up here, but we don't have it in the heart. We know it needs to be done, but it's not in our heart to do it because we're so afraid that we're going to lose something. We're going to lose a little $15 an hour job that we can go get somewhere else. We're going to lose something. And we have lost the will to fight, black people. So this is what we do. We get on these podcasts and we talk about it. And no actions is being done. You got the NAACP there. You got the Action Net. You got what's his name? Al Sharpton over there. And they never come together and build something greater. You know what I'm saying? It's almost like we waiting on a leader. We waiting on somebody to say, let's go this way, y'all. And that's what it feels like to me. It seems like we just innately we need a leader. And we don't have that. And they know we don't have a leader. So they just play in our face. And it's in our face, DEI. We really don't. We had Greenwood. If we had Greenwood again, we don't need DEI because we can hire within our own community. We can hire our own people. But we don't have that, so we rely on the Walmarts and all that, and they tell us, okay, we're going to take away our DEI. Okay, why did you give it to us in the first place? If you're going to take it away, why did you give us DEI? Why did you be a part of it anyway? You didn't really want to do it. So now Trump saying you don't have to do it. Okay, we're pulling back from it. Okay, so I'm still going to go to your store and give you my money, sir. I haven't been to Walmart all year. I'm not going back to Walmart all year. I go to these little hole-in-the-wall grocery stores, but I'm not going back to Walmart. But you ride by Walmart, you see the parking lot still full. What incentives do they have to do right by us? We're not giving them an incentive to do right by us because we're still going to do the same thing that we've been doing. We don't have the will to fight anymore. That's how I look at it.
You're right, Rob. You're right, but it's a nuanced situation. It's not like, hey man, they won't let us do this thing. We could just do our own thing. If we broke off and did it our own thing, we'd be a second-class citizens because they get federal funding to improve their neighborhoods, to improve their businesses, corporate subsidies. They get tax breaks and stuff like that. But Rob, you said something early. If we control our own tax dollars,
exactly.
If every tax dollar we pay in income tax, sales tax, whatever property tax went to a pool that went directly back to us, then we could do that. That's
exactly.
something, but that's something that would never happen because as much as the white man doesn't like us, they love our dollars. They love our spending practices. They
Exactly.
love our money because they'll never get rid of us because they need us. You know, Walmart's. I mean, imagine no black people at Walmart that didn't support Walmart, Nike, or McDonald's. They would crumble. They really would if black people didn't support them. You know, so I mean, it is what it is. I mean, there's so much stuff that needs to be that needs to be fixed. The first thing we need is a steady stream of money that supports the black community. You know, like those tax dollars you said. Then we can start talking about separate but equal.
You wanted to say something, Heather? You wanted to add to that?
Well, I'll just say, I think sometimes one of our biggest problems, I go back to education for everything, but not even understanding the system that we live in. This is a capitalistic society. It's free market. We don't understand that. And so we don't even understand how tax dollars roll through our community and what the tax dollars do in the long run. I've had somebody tell me they don't pay taxes. And I said, well, then when you retire, what do you expect if you need to get Social Security? They didn't even understand that. So I think some of the things, if we understood the system we lived in, we could live a whole lot better than we do. We just don't understand the government that oversees our daily basis. I get people all the time. I get young kids that say this. Well, I don't want to pay taxes. And I'm sitting here thinking, yeah, you want to pay taxes because guess what? When you get sick and the health department comes in, you're trying to figure out how did the health department know that Brahms had hepatitis A outbreak. That's because the government is tied to everything that we do, the dollars that we spend, how much toilet water flushes down the stool. We have to know that the government is involved in everything that we do daily. But we can live free from white folks and still get that government money. We just got to understand how it flows. We got the oldest, people don't know this, but we have the oldest black chamber in the country. The oldest, it'll be 100 years old next year. That chamber gets none of the travel and tourism dollars that come into the Greenwood district. It goes to the white chamber. But that's because we've had leadership that doesn't know the system that we live in to change that. Because those tax dollars should be coming to this black chamber and it hasn't been. But that's what Deep Greenwood's going to fight for.
I like this comment. I want y'all to see this. She said, no one is going to come to rescue. No one is coming to rescue us. I totally agree.
Absolutely. No, ain't nobody coming. As long as we just having conversations and we're not acting on nothing, we're not trying to put nothing in action, nothing is going to happen. Even if we don't, everybody say, look, we got a fund over here. Everybody going to put in $10 a month for this. And we just build it up for 10 years. You know what I'm saying? If we don't, I'm afraid if we don't move, if we don't start putting things into actions, do you think we can count on the next generation? Are y'all willing to bank on the next generation? Be honest. I mean, you see how far away we are from the civil rights movement. You know, so
it is so. Oh my gosh! You know what, guys? I just had an aha moment just now because I realized one of the problems is us.
Mm-hmm.
Us, yeah.
Biggest problem.
We have crabs in a barrel mentality. We don't like to support one another. We don't know how to be consistent. See, the thing about the Montgomery bus boycott, it was 381 days that they did that consistently. Because I think we have too much and we've gotten too used to this luxurious life we have.
We are afraid.
Yeah.
We are afraid of sacrifice.
There it is.
Sacrifice.
Yes.
Who's going to give up? Who's going to give up their job? Who's going to give up their job to walk off on Walmart? You know what I'm saying? Who's going to miss out? You know what I'm saying? So we have lost the will we're not sacrificing like we used to. And I think it's us, this generation right now. Every generation before us had a battle, had a fight I think we are dropping the ball. Us, this generation, my age, and I say between the age group of 30 and 50, we are dropping the ball because no one is sacrificing. No one is willing to put their head on the chopping block. You know what I'm saying? So nothing's going to happen. So we got to do something courageous. And we're just waiting around. We talking about, oh, they doing us wrong. They're going to continue to do us wrong because they control the power.
Well, we can fix some of the things. There's some simplistic things that I think we do that, like sustaining a business. I see this all the time. Black businesses, if they're supposed to be open at 11 o'clock, they come in when they feel like it.
Uh-oh.
We do a lot of simplistic things that destroy us in the long run. And it's little bitty things that just destroy Black businesses, period, that we don't focus on. You know, even just bad customer service. You know, we will cut each other off faster than we will some white person that says something ugly and rude to us and didn't want our money. But we'll cut a Black person off and never go back to them. But we'll hang out in Walmart and they'll accuse us of stealing something.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, or not that we go into the beauty supply store where they say you can only try on 3 wigs and you just better pick. Listen, Ella, baby, you get 3 chances. You better pick one of them. And if you buy the one and you just don't get it right, oh, you're not bringing that back, baby. And you better not stay in the store too long or I'm going to start following you around. You will not get my money. I promise you that. I promise you on everything. But I agree. We are, you're right, Robert. We are talking. We have these podcasts, State of Black America. Now what?
We have turned into everybody's piggy bank. That's all we are. And like I told my girlfriend, I mean, y'all complain about the Asians, but y'all have turned them. Y'all have handily gave them $1 billion business, and they don't have to do nothing but just show
generational wealth.
Generational wealth, just because of what y'all doing. You know what I'm saying? And I don't knock people from doing what they want to do, but what incentive do they have to, put money back into the community? You have given them no incentive to put money back into your own community. You
making me want to attack this. You making me want to snatch this wig off my head, brother. I think too bad.
But no, I'm just saying what I'm saying. They have $1 billion. They have $1 billion business, and they just set up shop in our community. And our Black women, we going to them. We gonna make them rich. And they take money, they send money home, you know what I'm saying? And then they talk behind our back, they lazy. Look at these lazy Black folk. And we don't gave them $1 billion business. I mean, what incentive do they have to respect us? Exactly. If we keep showing up, giving them our money, what incentive do Target and Walmart have to put money back into our community if we gonna still show up anyway? And they just told us we pulling back from DEI. Okay, we still coming to your store to spend our money. So what? Why would I care?
Not Target. We are making a difference with Target.
Yeah, they took like a $12 billion hit. Because
but why not Walmart too? Why are we going to Walmart? I mean, what's the difference? Yeah. Target, Walmart, they wanted to
Target and running a Walmart is counterproductive. Yeah, you're right.
So we have dollars. We don't know how to spend money. We spend money in the worst places, and we build everybody's wealth up, and ours continue to fall.
We had a school where we taught kids how to be less of a consumer and more of a producer. So they had to grow their own food, and we were actually getting ready to get chickens, and some mishap happens with the school. But the thing is, I think that we're $1 trillion business for the world. And we give out the most money, and we do not produce hardly anything. And we're the biggest producers, and everybody copy us. But we don't realize how wealthy we are with all the stuff that we give out to community. Black hair, like you said, is $1 billion business. And I refuse to go into a store, an Asian store anymore, and I don't feed Asian babies because they're disrespectful to us. So I'm not going to feed their babies. I'm not going to give them my money and you follow me around the store the entire time. I'm not doing it. When the lady told me that she couldn't take my check 20 years ago because the banks was closed. I said, you won't ever get me to come back in here again. And I haven't been in one since.
And that didn't kill you, did it? To do that and make that sacrifice? Yeah.
Because all I thought about is I'm feeding your baby and this is how you treat me. And that won't happen.
Yeah. And I think that's good. And I think we got to start somewhere. But why do we care about the our leaders? I mean, our legislators and our congressmen. Do we care, or do we just have we given up on that? What do you think about that? Ms. Doris, you're back with us. Let's bring you into the conversation. Okay. What do you think about that when, like what we're talking about the DEI initiatives and how this administration has dismantled a lot of that. And they're basically holding these companies hostage to it. And they're deputizing, like they said in the video, just regular citizens to basically tell on people. Oh, come and let us know, and they'll be on our hit list. So that's coming from the government. So these people are pulling it because they're afraid for their own success. So what do you think about DEI, and how should we as the Black community approach this? Or should we at all?
Yeah, that's going to be a very serious discussion and not a quick fix, because we were so divided amongst ourselves.
Yes.
Years ago, when our ancestors came along, we had one party that we were all working together within the churches, within our communities, and we made things happen. But now we're so divided. There are those of us who are of different political persuasion, and we think that our color, we forget where we came from. The society that comes up, or that is here now, I think, Ariel, you mentioned that the age group, the 30 to 50-year-old, they like everything instantly. They don't think about civil rights, they think about civil rights. And so that's where we are. We've lost that niche in our community to develop and make things happen for us. As you spoke about, Heather, when it comes to economic development, and we talk about chambers, I serve as the president of the one here in Polk County, and it's very hard because you have others who will fight against you, and you know, political persuasion. They will fight against you because they don't want to see you become successful. So that's where we are right now, is that we're so divided. Unlike our ancestors and after them, my grandmother knows face. They worked together because they had to. That's why they were so successful. But now we're so divided, and it's going to be a very hard drive, a very hard push. If we have like-minded people, as we are here on this broadcast tonight, come together, such as the Talented 10 did some years ago, we probably can get some things accomplished. Because what you have to do is mimic the system that we live in, have a shadow government. And that's how we're going to have to look at it. And you're not going to look at having one leader. You put one leader out there, that leader can be killed. So you need to have, you know, many leaders. You have economic development, you have education, every other entity that's out there that's going to benefit our community at large, as a whole, as a ethnicity. There's only one race, the human race, so we need to understand that. But I would like to digress when time comes back to discuss Juneteenth. I'd love to have some discussion about that. But that's my thought about how we can unite ourselves and how divided we are, and that is the plan. And I heard everything that even the president said. We are having too many holidays. He just said this today. We're having too many holidays. Yeah.
And you know which one he was talking about, right?
Oh, he was talking about Juneteenth. There's no question.
Uh-huh.
But we will have to fight to make sure, because that is for our freedom. We work for that. And so since that has come up, that he stated that we pushed for years, since the 90s, to make sure we knocked on the doors of some of these legislators, knocked on the doors of these congressmen and women, to make sure that they understood that Juneteenth was important to us, important enough for them to make sure each state within the United States sign a resolution, not a proclamation, but a resolution in their respective states. So because the last state signed on around the end of May into June, that's how the June came about. I don't think anybody threw anything to us. but we worked very hard, very diligently. We had petition drives. We had to write letters to our congressional representatives, and this was an ongoing movement from Dr. Ronald V. Myers, who was the National Juneteenth president. And so he worked very hard. I mean, I was so disappointed with him when he said, "Oh, I got Sarah Palin and she's going to sign on." Well, I didn't understand the strategy. As I say, Sarah Palin of all people. But that was a strategy to make sure that everyone was on board until all 50 states were in agreement. And once that happened, that's how the legislation or the federal law came about.
So you say, I like this comment. I want you to comment on this, respond to her. She says, hold our elected officials accountable. Does that work?
Yeah. See, here's the problem with us. We allow politicians to placate to us. We need to pick politicians and send them to places. See, this is what MAGA is. MAGA, see, everybody who's written on the MAGA, they already know what their agenda is. They're not, we don't have to ask you what your agenda. Your agenda is to support Donald Trump. That's your only agenda. If you got anything else to do, we're not going to put you in this place. And this how we got to do. We got to start sending people to run for office and not just going and like, okay, I like this person. No, we know what you're there for. We sent you here. You know what I'm saying? You're not campaigning to me. We're sending you somewhere, and that's how we got to do it. That's how they doing it. You know, that way when they get to where they're going, they already have an agenda set in place.
But we do hold them accountable, and we should always. That's why we meet with them before we endorse them. We have them come to us and say, "This is the agenda. Can you help support this when you become elected?" So if we fall from that, then we are the ones to be blamed about why we are not doing what we need to do to hold them accountable before they get elected.
What I was saying, Miss Doris, is you see how you asked the question. You phrase it as a question when you say, "Can you help us move this?" Instead of saying, "Can you help us with this agenda?" No, we're telling you this is your agenda. We are sending you here with an agenda. We're not asking you to support our agenda. The only reason we're support you are we handpick you to handpicking you to take our agenda there. That's what I'm saying. Instead of asking, we're telling you this is your agenda. This is your only reason for being here. You don't have an agenda. Our agenda is your agenda. And that's how Trump had his MAGA people. He tells them this is your agenda. You know what I'm saying? When he runs a MAGA person against someone, they know what their job is, just to support Donald Trump. You have no other agenda. That's how I see it.
And I don't disagree with your statement, Ariel, but my point is that what I am saying, I must defend my statement that I made. My point is that we do hold meetings. Perhaps each of you have had those meetings with the politicians before they're elected, but we have those meetings. And so perhaps my statement was a little bit softer, but we make sure they understand that we do have an agenda, and they need to make sure they honor and respect our wishes when they become elected, right?
Okay, I understand you.
And for those who feel they can't, they need to come back to us and explain why you didn't do this. For MAGA's only agenda is to do whatever they can to pull anything away from us, right? That's what it is for us. What we are entering into now is racism. That's blatant, the whole 9 yard all day long. And so someone else mentioned early on about, well, why are we still going to Walmart and all these other places? But if you were to go into your local Walmart store or your local Target store, anywhere now, you don't see many of us in there anymore. You see other ethnicities in there now working those jobs that we once had. So you have to look at that. Look at the countries that Donald Trump has put on the list for not being able to come into the country, right? Those are Black and brown countries. And so there is a move afoot that is going to be excluding us. And we see that already. DEI that you mentioned early on, Ella, That is correct. DEI and many other things. But if you look at his agenda, Project 2025, and everything else that's coming about, it's exclusive of us.
And let me say this before we move. I noticed lately, the last few years, I've been hearing the term black and brown. I mean, it's who is brown? I mean, it's no. And my point is, we gotta take it. It's black. We gotta stop saying black and brown. Because when we say brown, you talk about. I think we talk about another ethnic group or something like that. And we can't even get our stuff together. How are we gonna help somebody else? You know what I'm saying? And here they go voting for Trump. You know what I'm saying? So
good point. And so there was another softball, right? So the point here is that we should always look up for ourselves, right? And so that's what we have failed to do, because we were always inclusive, trying to look out for everyone else. And as we looked out for them, they never said anything about us, right? So that's where we're going to have to just pick up and be a little bit smarter about that. But with those countries, though, when I say brown, I'm speaking about Ethiopia, some other countries over there, African nations, countries. They do have a lot of brown people in there. And there's some Asian countries, too, I think he has on that list, but mostly people of African descent or in the African countries.
No, I mean we love everybody, but come on, let this is us now. We got to do us. Let's do us first, then we can come help some people.
I agree.
You know what I'm saying?
And they even criticized. They've criticized us, saying, "Come on, black people, we need your help. If they're coming for us, they're coming for you next."
Oh no, we ain't in this. We ain't in there. I tell people, look, that ain't our fight. We got to be over here. You know what I'm saying? I mean, we love y'all. But listen, we told y'all don't vote that way.
Exactly. Right. I think we don't understand. They don't understand. I told some people this the other day. They were telling me that you guys got to get in and help fight. Sir, it ain't our fight. Not only just that, they're coming for you next. They've been coming for us. We used to it.
Exactly.
So who cares?
Exactly.
Who said our lives we has to fight?
Color purple.
We've been fighting all our lives, so y'all just not got us.
See, they don't know how to live under any regime. We do. We had no choice but to.
Now, are you guys aware of what's going on with the voting and the stuff that Trump is doing? He's making it where, and I want you guys to tell me what you think about this. They're making it where when you get ready to vote, you have to show your proof of your citizenship. Now, I want to take somebody like me, for example. Like here on this show, my name says Ella Johnson. My ID is Ella Campbell. It still has my married name, right? So my birth certificate is not going to match my ID. So what happens to me when I go to vote and my citizenship can't be proven because my birth certificate has my maiden name? This is one of the things that he's trying to slide in there, guys, that you have to prove citizenship. They've gone beyond just show an ID. No, you need to prove your citizenship, right? What do you guys think about that?
Yeah, that's more voter suppression and more extreme, but you do have to have that ID. And there's a lot that can be said about when electronically at the end of every election, I don't know if any of you have ever worked the polls before, but when you tally up at night with those election results and you submit those via the internet, I wonder what happens. And I'll leave that up to you to say what happens. So I'll leave that at that point.
Well, I think what'll end up happening is they'll end up, white women will start getting mad because it's going to happen. The same thing that you're talking about is going to happen to them, and then it's going to be something said about it. When it starts affecting, then it's a problem.
Like this big, beautiful bill. And it's going to affect a lot, because they say on one end, no, it's not taking away Medicaid. But if you're adding all this money to the deficit and you're taking this money from somewhere, So where do you guys think it's coming from? Where's it coming from, Brett?
Definitely coming from Medicaid. What they're trying to do is they're taking away coverage for people that are they're taking coverage from children and people that are before the age of Social Security. That's what they're targeting. They think those people can work on their own, and they label them as people that are on the couch in mom's basement and stuff like that. Yeah. And that's not true. It's just simply not true. It's just that they work jobs that don't offer benefits. They work jobs that offer benefits, but they're not enough to cover what ails them. And that's what people don't understand when it comes to Medicaid. Medicaid isn't for freeloaders. Medicaid is for people that need it. You know, other countries like Canada and all these other countries, they don't deal with that because they have universal health care. Well, we don't. You know what I'm saying? You know, being fully covered is a privilege for in this country. A privilege if you make a certain amount of money.
So what do we do, guys? I mean, like, we're talking about all these problems. We see what Trump is doing. Because this is what I have an issue with. Every time I turn on the television and I watch it religiously, when it comes to the politics, and I hear all the congressmen and congressional leaders talking about, can you believe this is what Trump did? Trump. And we all talk about it. We're talking about it tonight. So who can stop it other than Jesus? Who can stop him?
I stopped consuming it. I stopped watching it because it's stressful. A lot of people are being stressed out or have Trump stress. You know what I'm saying? And they're gonna do what I see it like this. They're gonna do what they're gonna do. They told you what they was gonna do it. They're implementing it, and now they know he's only have 4 years, allegedly 4 years. So they're trying to fast track everything. They're trying to throw everything out. I heard a guy talking about today. They only have 4 years, so they got to go hard at everything. So if some people are going to be deported who shouldn't be deported, we have to do this because we don't have time to be vetting y'all. We just got to go hard at it because you know what I'm saying. Because we only have 4 years to do it. So they're doing everything at fast pace. They're throwing everything at you that you. Once they do something over here, and then you watch it over there. Then something going on over here. Okay, now Israel going at it over here. Now Iran. Okay, it's always something every day. So you can't focus on one thing, and it's called chaos. And it was this. I don't know. I think Steve Bannon said this. This is how we're going to have to implement it. We're going to have to cause some chaos. We're going to do a lot of things at one time, so they can't focus on one thing. So, and this is exactly what they're doing. There's so much going on. Next week, it's going to be something different. Watch this.
The great distractions. That's what those are.
Absolutely. Next week, it's going to be a different story. Last week, it was the economy. This week, now it's Iran. He got 2 weeks. We watched him 2 weeks. He going to do something to Iran. He going to shoot this big bomb they got. They say they dig deep into the earth. They're going to wait and see if they're going to drop that on Iran in 2 weeks. So he got a deadline. You know, he's the king of deadlines. So so I don't, it's something every week.
But what frustrates me, though, Doris, is we say that everything is against the Constitution. What does the Constitution do to fight against someone that's fighting it? In other words, we have laws for everything else. How do we make the Constitution work if someone is breaking it? If Donald Trump is doing something that the Constitution totally forbids, and he's doing it, how is he getting away with it if it's in the Constitution? Because then it means the Constitution isn't worth the paper it's written on. If you can still do what you want.
Right. Well, and I think the guardrails would be the Supreme Court, perhaps. And so if they do their duty, although he has, the last 3 persons he appointed, we don't know for certain, but it seems to be the courts have not favored him so much lately. He's been losing in the courts. So if he continues that way, he's going to try and push everything through the courts. That's his MO. And if it doesn't work there, and it hasn't so far, we just have to put everything litigate. That's all that I know. Because you're right, the Constitution seems to not be working at this time, right? It was supposed to be this big, beautiful document. This is, though, America is a experiment. So now we are witnessing this experience of having experiments during our time, during our lifetime. And what can we do? We got to probably look at what our ancestors did. How were they successful? And again, they came together in unity. As far apart as they were, they didn't have electronics at that time, as we all know. So we don't understand what are we doing? We're so divided. Why are we so divided at a time that's so critical that we need to come together and have these discussions, not on this venue, but we need to be talking about, again, as I say, there may be a need to have a shadow government where you can look at every aspect of government and see what we need to do to unify ourselves. And someone texted earlier or made a message that, hey, we got to save ourselves. And that is true.
So how do we, I want everybody to answer this because we're nearing the end of our broadcast. How do we capitalize? Because we can talk about it. We can whine about it. We can get pissed at it. We can post it. We can even get in the streets and march. But how do we take this stuff that's being thrown at us? Because we're good at taking stuff, taking lemons and making lemonade out of it. How do we take this one, this stuff that's being thrown at us? Well, we're going to take all your DEI initiatives. We're going to take this. We're going to take that. Let's see if you guys can manage. How do we come back from this? Because talking about it is not going to make Trump change his mind. Marching is not going to make Trump change his mind. So then what? That's what I want us to get out of this broadcast. What can we do? I really want to know.
I would like to say, get involved locally. Know who your politicians are. Know who your congressman is. Know who your senators are. On the local level, state level, and the national level, because those ones in the local level, they put pressure on the ones in the national level. So if you get it, you have to start the ripple from in out. So you're not going to be able to run up to the and I mean, I'm no disrespect to like March on Washington or anything, but you can't bang on the White House door and get things done. It has to be done internally. You have to know the process. You have to hold your local officials accountable. I mean, vote people in that care about your community, not people that don't care about your community. People that actually make a difference, speak, that make promises and follow through. So that's the way that you have to get out and you have to exercise your right to vote, especially on the local level. Don't miss any elections. You know, take off work, call in sick if you have to. If your work isn't if they're not cooperative. So make it happen. Or you can get involved, volunteer, register people to vote.
My friend there, Deanna, said, all of this is not going to stop when Trump goes away. Mm-hmm. What do we think about that? All of this is not going to stop when Trump goes away. Do you think that he's going to have people that's going to continue in what he started?
Well, I think
is he going to go away?
He's going to be in power.
What'd you say, Terry? Is he going to go away?
She has a point.
Yeah, because the way things going, he trying to stay in power. I mean, we might be seeing something new. We might be on to something new. You know what I mean? Like we have never seen before. With him staying in power, he trying to just think about this. In 2028, they're gonna have the Olympics, right? And it's gonna be in LA, right? He's still be in office, right? Just think about how he's gonna be. We look back and see what Hitler did in 36, right? At the Olympics, right? He gonna be that same way. He building his power up, right? He might be the last.
Well, we have midterms coming. We have midterms in 2026, and I think that will be very helpful if we can get the candidates in there that we need and get them in the House and in the Senate. So that's a push to make sure that happens.
So this is why she said it's not going to change. Stephen Miller.
Every other year is a midterm.
But I think I think
know.
the MAGA movement will die after Trump. If he comes to an unfortunate demise, or if he actually gets voted out. He actually leaves office in the next 4 years, which I'm not convinced that he is. He's not going to go quietly into that good night. Right. But I think
he's not going to go.
Yeah, I think once that a new regime is put in, I think you're going to get rid of all this foolishness, all this other stuff, all this foolishness.
They're just not bold enough to come against him. They're just not bold enough. That's why I can't stand weak people. And I'm not just talking about MAGA either. I think that what we have, because you guys are saying some good things, that yes, we should make our leaders accountable, but when they're not, we should speak out. But then when you speak out, that's looked upon like, ooh, Ella. So what, you MAGA now? Why do I have to be MAGA just because I don't agree with Democrats? When do we give Democrats the freedom to speak out against its own and it still be acceptable? Because you have some people that won't speak out because they're part of this group that says, no, you can't speak out against your leaders. Well, if they're not doing what they're supposed to do, that's what I'm supposed to do.
You got to
replace them. You got to replace them.
Right.
I am for replacing.
It's all white supremacy.
Yeah,
it's all white supremacy.
You're right, Terry. You're right. But the biggest part of the biggest problem with the Democrat Party is they're soft. They're not willing to get down and dirty like Republicans. They're not willing to use their power when they have it. They're all about optics. They want to look good and say the right things and then not do nothing. I was about to cuss, but that's the problem with Republicans. They don't care. They do what they want, and they might apologize for it later. But most of the time they say, "What you gonna do about it?" Okay, bam. This is a new. We just made this into law. What you gonna do about it? Nothing. Democrats.
And you and I were talking about that, Robert, before the broadcast. We were talking about that, how Democrats try to be so nice and just so, well, we're forgiving. And I think sometimes, because what frustrates me is when I'm watching a broadcast and I am seeing Democrats being interviewed and they'll ask them a question about something Donald Trump. Now it becomes about Trump as opposed to what you're going to do about it. I want to hear what's your plan. I am tired of hearing about Trump this and Trump that. We already know who he is. I have like 16 points sitting over here, right here on this piece of paper about who Trump is. But then who are we? Because when the midterm elections come, they're going to want to say, well, what did you guys do? We can't sit back and say, well, the Republicans control the House and the Senate. Let them. No, this is our time to not only capitalize on their constituents, but show who we can be. Because for the Democrats to change this, you're going to need some Republicans voting for you. And how are you going to do that if you're doing the same thing their leaders are doing? Mm-hmm. So the leaders that we have, because I'm telling you, I had somebody call me one day. It's so crazy. And I guess they got my number from some list. And they're giving their spiel. And I'm sitting here. I'm putting my lashes on. And I'm listening. And I'm like, okay, what does he stand on? And you could tell she wasn't expecting that. She thought I was just going to get her spiel and agree to vote. I said, what's his platform? What is he standing on? And I could tell she was looking at her notes. So if you're going to win over voters, you need to make sure you're ready for that. Because I'm not going to just give my vote to anybody. You have to earn it. And we got to have that. And I saw that K&K Shasha said something that's very key. They were talking about emails, posts on social media, videos. We got to keep putting it out there. I recently did an internship as a PR. And one of the things I learned that when you want bills to move through the House and move through the Senate, there's a lot of stuff that goes on to get it there. And I learned, like, wow, I said, I see how it is. I had to send emails. Not only did I send emails, but I had to get other people to send emails. Exactly. I had to send handwritten letters. I had to pick up the phone and call. And I was like, dang, it's like that. They're like, if you're going to be effective, this is how you got to do it. So
Exactly.
I'm passing that on to you guys, that if we're going to be effective, we got it, because you see how we're so inundated with this whole boots on the ground stuff, and I am too, because I'm having a boots on the ground birthday party. You guys are all invited.
Where
But
them
my
fans
point,
at?
what? You better say it. But what I'm saying is, but you see how committed to that we are?
Yeah, exactly. That's what
Imagine
I'm
if we put
saying.
that same effort into our politics. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, if I may interject, Ella, that's what we did to get the Juneteenth bill afoot. We had to petition, as I stated. I'm probably being redundant here, but we had to work. I mean, we had to work the phones. We had to do, as you say, the letter campaigns. We had to do petition drives, and we had to work at getting it done. And of course, you know, the strategy that Dr. Myers turned on to have what's her name, go out and start walking. And she would come into various cities and, you know, charge a fee to come in and walk. She had a walk today, by the way. As well as I know her, and I've interviewed her many times. But so it was a strategy, and a strategy that worked for the Juneteenth movement. So it helped. And you're right. Every strategy that you have invoked tonight is something that has to happen if we want to get something done. And that's how change comes about.
So we are representing how many states here? You guys are in Texas. Me and Doris are in Florida.
I'm in Georgia.
And you're in Georgia. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Why did I think you were in Texas? Okay, so you're in
He
Georgia.
wants to be in Texas.
Because you think
Oh,
I
is
know
that what
Brett.
it is?
You think I know Brett.
To be in Texas.
No, I don't want to be in Texas. Texas is, hey, I'm in Atlanta, baby. This is where it's at right here. You know what I'm saying? We controlling this city. You know.
All right, I heard that. But my point is that we're representing at least 1, 2, 3, 4 states here, right? So how can we, and I want your suggestions, because I don't want to just have a show just to talk about the issue. I want to have a show that could present a solution. So what can we do? Just us right here. What could we start and commit to start making a difference? Because you and I are in the same state, Doris. You're just right around the corner from me. You're in Polk County. I'm in Orlando. So in Florida, we definitely need it. Did you guys see in Florida where we had our, did you see the other day, Doris, where the police chief or whoever he was got on there and said, if you protest, you're going to die. He got on television and said that. That's in our state. That's in your county.
Yeah.
Oh, no, it was in Broward. No, that was Broward.
County. Yeah, Broward County.
But this is what I'm saying. They just say stuff. And like we're supposed to be scared.
But see, here's the thing, though. It should have been 1 million black people out there the next day.
Right.
You're right.
Man, you got to kill all of us. You see what I'm saying? So that's what I'm saying. When they say stuff like that, you got to respond immediately. So it should have been 1 million black people saying, here we go.
But
you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and RL, respectfully, I disagree with that strategy that you're talking about, because the only thing that's going to happen, there's going to be a bloodbath. And so people will get killed because they are, again, they have no compunctions about doing whatever they need to do to remove us, right? So either they will lock us up or harm us. And if someone is so brash and bold enough to make that statement, I believe he means what he says, because he will be, as he feels, within his right to do whatever he wants. He said, I'll kill you. And he meant that.
He did say that.
I'm sure.
Yeah, but Miss Doris, with all due respect, isn't that what happened in the 60s? They told us that in the 60s, but we went out there anyway. In the imagery is that imagery is what changed everything, because they realized we can't be having these wars within our own country on the street and try to fix things across seas. So we gotta get back radical. That's the only thing they understand. We gotta get radical with them. They're radical. We gotta be radical. It's safety in numbers. We gotta show up in numbers. If that's what it takes, we gotta do whatever it takes for our next generation. That's all I'm saying. And I feel what you're saying. You know what I'm saying? I understand what you're saying.
There has to be a plan, and it has to be a strategy that's going to be a workable strategy. I think you have to think through that. I hear what you're saying, but training that I know, and trainers who are doing what they need to do, men who are underground right now, they come together, they're training in various locations, and you're who's Georgia, your state, our brothers and sisters. And so there is something going on, and you just have to know where and when. But I would say that I would not be the one of the ones who would go out there and say, okay, come on and kill me. I'm not going to do that.
No, we wouldn't expect you to go. I think, you know, we're not saying come on and kill us. We're saying we're saying we're backed. We are backed by the Constitution. We have a right to assemble.
And that's true.
We have a right to assemble. So how can we? So if we begin to let them tell us we don't have a right to assemble, who are we? What are we?
2 or 3. Remember 2 or 3? When you say 2 or 3 people, more than 2 or 3, then they have a right to say you got to disperse. Remember that? So if we go with more than 2 or 3, and then they come out and say you can't assemble here, you can't gather here. There's a law in the state of Florida that will not allow you to do certain kinds of protests and all of that. Signed into law by DeSantis. He came into Winter Haven and made that because the sheriffs were coming together. They didn't want the protest to happen. So it is a strategy, though. I don't have any qualms about what you're saying. My concern is that we have to get together and divide it or not. We have to devise a strategy to offset what we hear and counter that intellectually. And I'll close on that note.
I think that it's a strategy on their part to try to drive us to the street, to kill us. I personally think that is, well, let me try to do something that'll definitely get the black folks mad, get them to the streets. And when we get them, martial law, there it is. I mean, look at what's happening in California. I know it's dying down a little bit, but they also had a right to protest. That didn't matter. That's what I'm saying. The Constitution has lost its power. Like what if the Constitution is what this country was built upon, and we can break those rules, then we have nothing else. What else do we have? If I can't sit here and say, well, the Constitution said that I have right to free press. The Constitution said that I can have free speech and all this, and then when I do it, you throw me in jail. That the Constitution didn't work for me. Now what's going to happen, people who are afraid, they're going to be less talkative now because they can't depend on the Constitution now. You see what I'm saying? So it's like, I understand what everyone is saying. And it almost seems, because when you were saying that, Robert, when you were talking about...
So let me ask you something. Y'all don't think Dr. King didn't know what he was facing? Y'all don't think he didn't, he knew it was a chance he was going to lose his life, but he knew it was a sacrifice he had to make. And I think this is what I was trying to tell you earlier. We are afraid to make that sacrifice. We are actually sitting here saying we are afraid to march because they told us they're going to kill us. And now we are afraid to get in this. Now we're afraid to get in. If we don't have a sure voice, then we're never going to get anything. If we talking on these talk shows, they going to get us nothing. They only understand the show of force. You know what I'm saying? They don't want this. They don't want to tear this country up. Like we love this country just as much as they love this country. You know what I'm saying? But if you got 500,000 people in the street saying, no, you ain't taking our rights away, then what are they going to do now? Now they got to. We're gonna show their hand. Know what y'all gonna do now? You know what I'm saying? If we are afraid to sacrifice for their generation, then who are we? Like the generation before us, Dr. King, Medgar Evers, them. They put their life on the line for this, and now y'all said, we're afraid we might die. But so what? It is what it is. It gonna be what it gonna be. It gonna be what it gonna be. But if we show up in numbers, like we showed up on the Edmund Pettus Bridge, and they sick them dogs on us. They put them water hoses on us, and they shot them rubber paddles on us. But we stood and we fight, and now the world see America for what it is for this generation. For the next generation, we got to fight again. Everything is a struggle, y'all. It's gonna be a struggle, but do it if you can't do it for yourself, do it for your grandkids.
And let me say this:
do it for your grandkids. Imagine if we going through this now, if we crying like this now, imagine what our grandkids gonna go through. If we don't get it done, if we don't fight for them, who gonna fight? Who gonna fight? You think the next generation prepared for the fight? No, they're not.
But Robert, my point is that, again, you must have a plan, a strategy, and all of this that you're talking about can happen. And there are people out there who are strategizing and planning and working. They're exercising. They're, learning how to shoot their guns, and they're doing all of these things. But there is there has to be a platform. There has to be a strategy that's going to work, because you're talking about people who have all kinds of equipment that they didn't have when our ancestors came along or when my grandparents came along. But yeah, I don't disagree with what you're saying. I just think that we can't just get out there, just get out there and say we're going to protest and march. First of all, you got to know how to do certain things before you go out there. You got to know how to protest. You got to know how to march. You got all of that. You just can't loosely go out and do those things. But I agree. We do have to have a plan. We do have to not sit back and be silent, but you just can't get out there openly and say, oh, I'm upset about it because someone said he's going to kill me. Well, go for it. If you got 100,000 more of you and you have devised a plan and a strategy to offset what the people who are in power has, and they have more might than you do or I do, then hey, go for it.
I think that sheriff was blowing a lot of smoke. He was in Brevard County, Florida.
Broward County.
I thought it was Brevard.
Was
County.
It Brevard? Was it Brevard or Broward?
Broward County in Florida.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Because because that county that he's the sheriff of, he's not the sheriff of Broward County. He's the sheriff of it's like in northeast Florida, right? Because Broward is South Florida, right? Mm-hmm. Miami-Dade County and all that.
Yeah, that's more south. Yeah.
Yeah, that's south. That's different. I think he was talking like Pip C says, haters talk mess from a safe place. I think he knew that there wasn't gonna be a protest where he was. Most of these protests are happening in Democratic cities, in Democratic populated areas. In New York and
in Florida, they did. They got out and protested the very next day after that. So they didn't.
Right.
The
big crowds and the No Kings. No Kings was all over the country, but they were really, really mobilized in the Democratic cities. But like what I'm saying is, I think that it's really tough. To combat that, like Rob said, 1 million of us should have been out there. It's hard to unify us. It's because that we have so many issues. We have so many issues in this country, and if we don't agree with somebody's philosophy on one of them, we fight with them. Instead of being like, all right, you run with this, you run with this, you run with this, you run with this. Meet us here. Instead, we like, no, that's a bad idea. No, we're going to be doing that. And then we fight and we don't end up going nowhere. So if we can find a way to unify, and it may take a leader to do that. I don't know. I don't have that answer. I'm definitely not an organizer of leadership like that. But I do know that if we vote on code, we could take a step towards that.
And I understand why people are hesitant and reluctant to do a lot. Because I remember in Alabama, I did a little peace rally in my hometown. And I don't live there anymore. And I was standing up for the people who do live there. And they were afraid to come out. And they said to me, Ella, listen, we appreciate what you're trying to do for us, but you're going to take your little behind back down to Florida. We're still here. We still are the ones getting intimidated by the police coming by and I said, but if you guys don't stand up, they're never going to change. So that's why I understand where you're coming from. And here I was willing to put my life on the line, and I don't even live there anymore, but that's where I'm from. And eventually, when it was time for the actual peace rally, there may have been 30 people that showed up. And they called me and they say, Ella, I really appreciate what you're doing. It's really great. But girl, I can't come up there. My boss said they were going to drive by. And if I'm out there, I can lose my job. You see? And I was just like, wow. So that was where the hesitancy was coming from. I need my job. Are you going to pay my rent? Are you going to buy my groceries? I can't be seen with you, is what they were basically saying. because of what I was trying to stand up for. So how do we change that, Doris? How do we get people, like you said, the people back in the 60s, they had a totally different mindset. They were sitting there, people were spitting in their face. They were just sitting there, just letting them do it. Do we have those kind of people now
No.
that could sit at the you know?
At the
I,
counter, yeah.
I don't think that's gonna happen these days.
But again, and as I say, because Robert, I have to echo what you said early on about the age group. That's the whole difference. That's where your larger groups of people are more active. They're more they have a solid way of communicating if they want to and need to, and they have an economic base also. They have the disposable income and all of that too. But they don't see what you see. They don't see what I see, because what they have done, they have been, they're instant baby boomers. Well, they're not baby boomer. I'm a baby boomer. Own up to that. But they're instant, gratification here and money's here and microwave here. Those kinds of mindset. They don't think about the civil rights, as I said early. They think about the SILVER rights, and that's what has happened to us, and that's what has impacted the growth and the activism that you have talked about, Robert, tonight, how we should amass and get out and be on the front lines. Now, and Broward County is in Florida. It is in South Florida, by the way, and that's where Sheriff Ivey spoke, and that's what he said, "I'll kill you." Izzo spoke against him making that statement, but that just didn't resonate with him, because these people don't fear anything, because they don't fear, again, as Ella has invoked several times about the Constitution. And so until we can get with ACLU, who was very opposed to what he stated, Sheriff Ivey, that is, and if we can get with these other people who can come in and support what we're doing, again, Ariel, I talk about the strategy. We got to have strategy. So if you go to jail, you got someone to bail you out right away.
Right.
You got to have all those plans together before you get out there and talk about protest. How you
That's
link together on the arm, how you link together what you say, what you don't, the resistant march and all of that. I've been there, done that, and I've seen it all. I was out there last Saturday, No King's Day. I was out there. It's about 1,800 of us who got together here in the city of Lakeland. But it was, nice, peaceful protest. And I don't like being involved with things that's going to get me harm. I'm a proud grandmother, 6 grandsons, so I want to see them all for as long as I can. But anyway, I would like to say, I think, though, you have the spunk. And I think that, we need that leadership like yourself. And I think you should be one of the ones that should be running for an office, your city council, or maybe if you want to run for state or wherever you are, but you should try it. I mean, look who's running for governor. She's a good candidate. And so why not? I mean, you could take it to that level. And you're not militant. You're just saying, I don't want to sit by and let this happen when I know I can do something about it.
That's passion. That's what I saw.
Yeah,
passion.
I commend you. I commend you.
I do too. I didn't know you had it in you. And look at that. There's your campaign manager right there. Brett, I think you would be willing to take the job. But I do believe that grassroots effort, because I think about it. When you mentioned about the bridge and how in Selma, that was what got their attention, because they didn't like the look of that. They didn't like how that looked coming across the TV screen. They're like, oh, whoa, wait a minute, Martin. What's going on? Martin said, look, bro, I had nothing to do with that one. That was people like us that said we're tired. And they did that. Because you remember, I don't think Martin Luther King was there was some of that. He was like, I didn't start this one.
Yeah.
And that's what got him to the White House, to where they finally wanted to talk. So sometimes it takes a little bit of that, because they don't like seeing that stuff come across the screen. Like, what's going on? You got dogs and holes and everything going after people. We can't have that in this country. They didn't like the look of it. So
And that's
sometimes
that's another thing too.
yeah.
And that's another thing too. Our spiritual leaders, I don't see them out front like they did back in the '60s. Like
They're
back in the
scared.
'60s, they our spiritual leader was out front. You know,
They are
because they
scared.
was, you know what I'm saying.
And
They
they're
went,
getting paid.
they was spiritually radical. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? So
Yeah.
They
They can't be
comfortable now.
radical and get paid too.
I think comfort has a lot to do with it.
That's it, Bert. Excuse me. I was going to say you're exactly correct. Everybody's in their comfort zone. They're not going to lose any of that, and so that's what I'm saying. These people are very comfortable now. They're part of the system, so they think, and they're not going to come out and lose their disposable income where they can go and
Right.
do as they please. That's not going to happen. That's why you have to have a mindset as RL has and others like you who would get out there and make a change. Otherwise, we're going to be having these conversations all the time and getting nowhere. But I think
See, I don't want to just talk about it. I want to do. I mean, if
be
you
about
start
it. Yeah.
something, RL, I
Yeah.
will come to Georgia. I mean, you're right down the street from us. We straight up 75, brother.
okay.
So if you do no, because I want to be a part of something, but I want to be a part of something like Doris said that has a strategy.
Yeah,
Just go out there
I think
because
everybody want
it'll
to be
be
a
over
part of
before
something.
you know
Yeah.
it.
I
Yeah,
think
it'll be
everybody want
over
to be a
before
part of
you know it.
something. But I think once you start something, I think it's about merging and growing it, and you know what I'm saying, people coming together, a lot of different factions, with a lot of different mindsets with one goal. You know what I'm saying? So
Absolutely.
and I think right now we got a lot of different minds. Everybody trying to be the guy. Everybody want to be that dude. You know what I'm saying? Instead of saying, "Hey man, listen, I'm gonna get behind you. I'm gonna bring my crew with you, and then we behind you. Now we bigger. Now we, you know what I'm saying? And everybody's trying to do their own thing, so nothing gets done. You know, you got the action. You got the Al Sharpton group over there. You got the NWCP. You got this group over here. I mean, just can y'all just go to a room together and come up with some stuff for us, man? You know what I'm
Everybody
saying?
has a different agenda, though.
Everybody has a
Yeah,
different
you're
Some,
right.
yeah,
You're right.
everybody
And
has a different agenda.
everybody got something, you know, they got something to say about their agenda too. Because like you look at like you could say a financial leader is somebody like Boyce Watkins. An educational leader is somebody like Dr. Umar Johnson. And another activist leader is like Tariq Nasheed. You know, none of these guys get along. You know what I'm saying? None of these guys, they all have something bad to say about each other. And so we can, if we're stopping to fight each other along the way, we'll never. I mean, it is. I mean, yeah, I see. Ego is huge. People
Yeah,
have
it is.
huge egos.
And I
They
do
don't
not
like to
have
be told
time.
nothing, and they don't like to take
Yeah.
back seats anymore.
Yeah, I can't stroke egos. Now, before we get out of here, I know you said that you wanted to jump back into Juneteenth, Doris. Kind of end the night for us about Juneteenth because this is Juneteenth. Happy Juneteenth, everyone. And I want you to just kind of take us home with what we should be thinking, what we should look forward to, where our head kind of should be with celebrating this in the midst of all the chaos.
Well, the celebration for me here in Lakeland started, and I guess we use the word observance versus celebration because as I would have to always refer to Robert on this one because he would say, well, what are you celebrating? And I would probably say we are observing what has happened in terms of freedom. So we talk about Flag Day, we talk about Juneteenth, and we talk about the Independence Day, July 4th, 1776. And I think you alluded to, Ella, to Frederick Douglass, what he said. He said, what to the Negro is the 4th of July, when he spoke to the women in New York there. But anyway, I just said that for each his own. If you want to celebrate it as you will and however you will, do so respectfully. Read a good book, go to the park, be with your children, go to an event, honoring and respecting the ancestors. do libation, pour some libation. And I'm not talking about alcohol. Of course, nothing wrong with a glass of wine, or whatever people, spirit drink is. But at any rate, I just do something that satisfies yourself, and be thankful for the opportunity that we're still here. We're still able to be with our families and share and encourage them and see that they are going through the path that we want them to go. And I think if we are doing all those healthy things and our families are fine, we're going to be well, we're going to be good, and we're going to do what's right, because Robert is going to make sure. Robert, enjoyed being with you tonight, by the way, and you too, Brett.
I'm glad to meet you too, Miss Dars.
Yeah, you can drop the miss. Make me feel old here. But Ella, I appreciate the invite. And I would just say for Juneteenth, for me, it's really my legacy here in Polk County, having been involved here since 1992. Dr. Alzo J. Red, I hope you will have him on one night soon. But he signed the legislation in May of 1991. And I see Bert put the flag up behind him. But,
I see that.
And I don't subscribe to that, but that's another conversation. I still and I respect the flag that you have there. I know the history, I know the story behind it. I know the man who designed that flag and why. But I am, I'm just a person who, I guess, I like the
African colors.
I like the colors that we have identified with. Okay, I like those because it has significant meaning to me. My 7-year-old will be reading about those colors on Saturday night. Which, if anybody's in Polk County, Juneteenth, we're starting at 4:00 and end at 7 with a meal free to all, to the public who want to come out. We'll have a program, a speaker. My 7-year-old grandson will read about the 4 colors. And so, and I embrace those colors. I really do. Marcus Garvey.
What did they signify, Doris?
Briefly
tell us what the colors.
Yeah. So the red, the blood, the bright, the black, the people, the green, the land, and the gold, the richness of Africa.
Okay.
And so that's what I go by. But I know what that one is described to say, but I don't subscribe to that. And so the national president and I have had those discussions, and he has to respect my my decision. And so I though, as I say, I know why it's there. So anyway, I'm done. Thank you so much again.
All right, Robert, what would you like to share with us before we get out of here? What would you like to say to our viewers?
Yeah, I appreciate the invite. It's been a good conversation, and I want y'all to just go. I have 2 songs on my new album dedicated to black people. I got a song called "Dear Black People" and a song called "Rise." The song "Dear Black People" is for black people in general, and the song "Rise" is for, I think, like black men in general, because I think men are gonna have to start leading the charge. I think that's another issue in our community. And I don't have a problem with women leading. I think men should be more involved too, so pretty much. And my album can be listened. You can listen to my album anywhere, any platform. Moving Forward, Leaving Me Behind.
I'm gonna put you on the spot. Give us a little something before we go.
You actually could have played a song. You could have pulled up R.L. Stafford, Dear Black People, saying so.
Yes.
So I would prefer you to do that. It would have been a good song to play.
Man, come on, just give us a little something. You got a good mic. You got good lighting. See you. This is it.
Let me do a little. I'm doing a little Teddy. Wake up, everybody! No more sleeping in bed. No more backward thinking. Time for thinking ahead. The world changed so very much from where it used to be. There's so much hatred, war, and poverty. Black folk, the world won't get no better if we just let it be. No. The world won't get no better. We gotta change our community. That's you and me.
Bravo, bravo. I
That was
agree.
amazing. You held those notes, brother. I love it. That was good. That was
See,
good.
y'all almost got me deep into my TED. I almost said, "Wake up, everybody!"
Listen, I would have been all right with that. Listen, I have had so much fun with you guys. We have to do this again, but next time I would like us to do it out there somewhere. I want to take the Ella Johnson show to the streets so that we can really talk to people. We can let's take it to the next level is what I'm saying. I want to bring you guys back. And yes, Doris, let's get in touch with that person, whoever it was you just said. The more the merrier. Let's keep the conversation going. Let's not end with tonight for sure.
Absolutely.
Brett, what would you like to say to us before we get out of here, my friend?
Okay. Vote. Register to vote. Make sure you're registered, and find somebody that's in your family that has not registered and help them register to vote. Voting is power. Your choice is your voice. Remember that. Don't ever let people think that your vote doesn't mean anything. They're going through many tactics to suppress your vote. If they wouldn't do that if it wasn't important, if it wouldn't make a difference, they just let you vote and they wouldn't care. There's certain factions of people in the powerful places that depend on you not voting. So vote. Your choice is your voice. Remember that. Thank you for having me.
All right. I love it. I love it. Well, guys, listen, I wore red tonight because I'm definitely supporting Juneteenth. Listen, this show was about just us coming together to talk about the state of Black America, but also deal with our own issues, because we don't want to ever be a type of people that's always pointing the finger. The first thing we have to do is look at ourselves. Like Michael Jackson always said, look at the man in the mirror and start with that person, right? So I want to thank you guys so much for tuning into the Ella Johnson Show. I will be back Saturday. I have no idea what my show is going to be about, but I'll be right here, 8:30 Eastern, 7:30 p.m. Central this Saturday night for another broadcast from the Ella Johnson Show. Thank you guys so much. And y'all hang tight just for a second, just so we can chat a little bit before you guys go. But thank you all so much, and we'll see you next time right here on the Ella Johnson Show. Have a great evening, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in to the Ella Johnson Show. We'll see you next time.
We are supporters of the Ella Johnson Show. We live in South Korea. We have been watching Ella Johnson Show for like a year now, and we love her show. Her show is very inspirational, motivational, and educational.
If you would like to be a guest on the Ella Johnson Show, send an email to theellajohnsonshow@gmail.com or send a text message to 407-334-6997.
We love Ella Johnson Show.